When are we going to see NIO stock go to $70 and beyond? I'm talking new all-time highs. It's a fair question. And yes, we're maybe a ways off, at least as far as the dollar amounts are for the NIO stock price. But I want to actually start with this. We're going to talk about that a little bit in this video, but I wanted to share this because Sunday, May 5th, I'm going to be on a Twitter Spaces. Normally, I can't do the Sunday Spaces, and so I'm not often on with these guys, but they're kind enough to allow me to come on. And so one thing I said is, hey, let's open it up. And if people want to have questions, not just for me, but the other folks who will be on the call. I love the NIO Global community, and it's been a lot of fun to interact with people from all over the world. And it's especially exciting that so many of us have even if we come from different parts of the world or have very different views on other things, when it comes to this company, NIO, we see something in this company, and it's truly a unicorn. We've never seen a company like this before, so that's very exciting. There is a set reminder button you can click for NIO Nordics, and I'll link this in the description. So if you would like to, you can hopefully tune in, and I think they'll make it available so that after the fact you can still listen in, even if it's not live. But I appreciate them giving me the opportunity to come on and talk a little bit. So, and I haven't done a live stream in a long time. So I thought this would be kind of a fun way to interact with folks again. But this is now, let's talk NIO stock. And this is one of the things I'm watching. And I tweeted this out on May 2nd. I said, NIO, Alibaba, FUTU, BIDU, all of them had positive price action with strong, much stronger than the recent average daily volume traded. And so my kind of query or thought is, are institutional investors buying these Chinese stocks? I think it's a fair question to consider. And then I said I'll drop a video with my thoughts on NIO stock this weekend. So that's this video that I'm doing right now. And because I want to save my voice a little bit for Sunday, I'll try to get this or keep this rather brief. But this is the next tweet I want to highlight. And it's a reminder, NIO went from about $3 to $54 in less than 7 months. And this was back in 2020. If predatory shorts needed roughly two and a half years to take NIO stock from about the $40 range to the $4-ish range today, and this was on May 1st when NIO had a nice pop in big volume. Today is a reminder that NIO can move up faster than it goes down. I talked about this recently in a video. There's been such a slow kind of onslaught with this, this deluge of negative price action over the last couple of years. I think that, and until I actually dug in and broke down some numbers, I didn't realize just how much faster NIO stock can and has moved up in the past. And so it can move up. We'll see what happens. I'm not calling a short squeeze. I'll let Mr. P do those videos if he wants, but I'll tell you why I won't call that in a little bit when we get to the FTDs. This is something that did catch my eye. It matters. The 5 million FTD spike in one day. And I caught this and talked about it on May 1st. I actually highlighted in a couple of videos. NIO also surprised with delivery numbers in this same week with over 15,000 for the April numbers. And I know Marcel Munch, who's been covering NIO for a very long time, was surprised by those numbers. I think a lot of people were surprised by the numbers. And fun fact, we track the weekly data, not because we're that focused on the weekly data, but because we want to have a sense of when things are upticking like they are with NIO on the delivery side with the premium brand. So it's really nice to kind of, have a little more awareness of these things. But this 5 million FTD spike, failed to deliver spike in one day, hasn't happened since 2020. And that is when we saw NIO stock made its big run. So now let's talk FTDs. This is why I will not call a short squeeze. It's because we never get real-time data. What we're looking at right here is the fail to deliver data, and fail to deliver, essentially the yellow price or the yellow line, represents price action for NIO stock. This is the full history of NIO stock in the US market. The white represent fails to deliver. That's when on a given day, when it's reported, a certain number of shares couldn't be located. And that means they could have been used to suppress the stock price or take the stock price down. And what you'll notice, especially if I take out price, what you'll notice is we've got just one area where there weren't a lot of fails to deliver. And now if I reapply the price, look at what happened with the price when there was perhaps a more normal number of fails to deliver. And then when the fails to deliver started popping up again, we saw NIO stock come back down and then get pushed down even more. So this is the day that I highlighted. This is the day where there were 5 million FTDs reported. The problem with this data is it's never real time. It's always delayed data. We only get it a couple weeks after the fact. And that's why, as I said before, I will not call a short squeeze. But what I will do is point out when there are important data points like this 5 million shares that couldn't be located on a single day and reported hasn't happened since all the way back here. And this is before we saw the big run by NIO Stock. So if we do see a NIO Stock short squeeze, I think we'll have more big numbers like this pop up, and we'll be able to look at it retroactively, not live, not real time, but I'll keep trying to pay attention and share this as I see it. But obviously, we've seen NIO Stock again run from that $3 to $54 range, and this is way before the company was even close to being profitable. So what are my thoughts on stock price action? Well, it doesn't mean I know anything or can call anything. The time frame is the hardest thing to do. But I'll tell you one thing. I didn't pick NIO to focus on as my favorite long-term stock because I think it's only going to $70 a share. So frankly, I'll be disappointed if it only goes to $100 a share. But I also gave myself a long time frame. And part of that was recognizing that the time frame could shift. At the bottom of the screen, you see that I have the first three major growth phases for NIO. The first is the one we're in right now, and that's market awareness. Even in China, its home country, NIO as a brand is still becoming recognized. And this was an important piece that I think has started to play out. And that is in April, we saw this nice uptick on the delivery numbers. That could be a result in part of the new fellows, the new sales personnel from NIO that have been hired and trained to help get the word out about the brand. After that happens, I think that's going to run into our second major growth phase, which is profitability for the company. Now, profitability for the company is really important in my mind, as it is going to help crush the short thesis. And at that point, I think we'll see shorts, including the suspicious short Citadel, as I've referenced many times here on the channel before. I think we'll see them go long because the guy running that company is no dummy, and he is going to want to own as much NIO as he can, I think, because we've never seen a company like this. I truly believe NIO is a unicorn. And so there's good and bad that comes with that. The good is it could go further than any of us are really thinking. The bad is it could take longer for it to be recognized, and we still don't know if it will go as high or as far as a lot of us are hoping it will. So look, there is more unknown than known at this point. But after profitability, we'll see Bass. Now, for me, Bass is the main brand, the premium brand for NIO, having 1 million cumulative deliveries out. And at this point in May, they're going to have 500,000. So they're getting there. I think in the next few years, we'll see this come in. At that point, once these three major growth phases are in effect, I'll kind of take a look back at everything. And at that point, I'm going to decide whether or not I was right on this thing or what I want to do, moving forward with NIO Stock. But that's just my take and my lens. I chose this company because it is an IDE, an innovative driven enterprise. These are companies and stocks, by the way, which tend to trade at low levels until profitability. And then after that, they can really rocket. And I think part of that is the view of Wall Street is so short-term, short-sighted, if you will. They make a lot of money shorting companies, especially until they're profitable. So they do a lot of that. And that actually might contribute to some of the meteoric rise that we see in some of the stocks. So here are a few examples: NVIDIA, Tesla, Amazon, Netflix. These are just some of the examples of companies that have traded basically at penny stock levels at one point, but then once they showed profitability and strong profits because they're an IDE, and that means as an innovative driven enterprise, they have a large global footprint, they can make so much more money. And by that time, so many folks, including the Wall Street big money institutional investors who slept or missed on them earlier, start chasing. And that's where I think we'll see big price action happen. But as far as the short term, I do not trust Wall Street enough. I don't trust the markets enough, especially here in the US, to think that we have seen the low come in for NIO. I hope it's in, but I won't be surprised if we do see things go negative a little bit. I think in the next couple of weeks, and especially in May, we'll get some clarity on this, because if big money is buying, as I suggested they might be, we'll see more of kind of the big trade volume days with a continued uptrend with the stock price action. And I don't think it'll be necessarily crazy every day, but what we'll see is no real big pullbacks. We might get a little bit But I think that trade volume is going to be an indicator. I think that what the other Chinese companies, including those stocks, and I'll pull them up again here so you can see the ones that I saw on that one particular day, May 2nd, positive big price action movements and heavy volume. That's one of the things that to me is going to signal Wall Street getting back involved in buying some of these companies. And so I think that is at least as likely as a short squeeze in the case of NIO. But this is kind of a way to sort of watch things, and that's what I'll be doing. As far as the short squeeze goes, I think we will be able to track that retroactively with the fails to deliver, the FTDs. But because it's delayed data and it's every 2 weeks roughly that we get it, we just won't know real time. And so I will keep tracking the trade volume on the daily side of things. I think if I'm going to say I'm looking for lows to come in, do I think NIO could go back under $4? Sure, of course it's possible. And if it does, I'll definitely try to add a little bit. That's me personally and what I'll be doing. But do I think we could also have a meteoric rise and run like we've seen in the past? Yes, I do. I actually hope we don't, because I don't necessarily want NIO to go on a short squeeze play. I want us to see it grow and continue to move up and then essentially just not come back from wherever it goes. I think all-time highs are certainly possible. And I think, okay, I'm putting myself on the spot here, and I hope you stop through if you see this video to the Twitter Spaces so we can talk more in depth on this. If I'm going to call a range, I would say, and this is what's crazy, is these penny stock to IDEs, once they're established and profitable, can go so massive from the down to upside. I think that we could see NIO go back under $4. I won't say I'll say I'll give that about a 50-50 chance. And I think the way we would see that happen is not a big drop in one day. I think we would see that play out over the course of, let's say, the predatory shorts, as I referenced them, are still actively looking to suppress price action on NIO or maybe even take positions in NIO. I think we'll see a slow bleed, kind of like we've seen over the last couple of years, 2.5 years roughly. Conversely, if we see a short squeeze, I think that'll be more obvious. But during that time frame where we saw those massive moves by NIO, they were average. I think the daily trade volume was 80 to 100 million shares traded daily on average over those months. And there was one day I remember there were over 600 million shares traded in a single day. And that was when NIO stock was just going nuts, when we saw probably a short squeeze play out. So I think we'll get those indicators as far as NIO to the upside. Let's face it, in less than 7 months, it went from $3 to $54. And I know some folks have made this point. They've said, well, the float's different now. Yes, I agree. However, did we ever really know what the float was? I mean, there's the actual float, what it's supposed to be, and then there's the fake shares that could get created and used to suppress stock price. That changes the float total, not in actuality, but because rehypothecation matters and the fake shares can be used in an informal sort of dilutive way. So we don't really know. And because we don't know, it's so hard to try and call it. But I'll say this. If NIO surprises with profitability and we see shorts get squeezed, I do think we will see, I don't even want to call a price range. I think we will see this thing move like it did back in 2020. I'll put it that way. And I hope, and I certainly think that new all-time highs are possible for NIO, provided NIO does achieve profitability and strong profitability into 2025. I think we could see it in 2024, but if we see it in 2025, and then if we, depending in part on what the overall deliveries are with the sub brands, and then also the partnerships, because I've talked about this before, and I hope we'll cover this on the Twitter Spaces, but the beautiful way that NIO has positioned itself with the power swap stations and the upgradable swappable battery technology has positioned NIO such that every other one, a company basically who wants to be a player, every other one in the industry or wanting to get in the industry would benefit from partnering with NIO. I don't care if you're Tesla, I don't care if you're BYD, I don't care if you're Ford, they would all benefit, and they would get a piece or an opportunity at a piece of the energy play that NIO provides as well. Additionally, let's not forget that those power swap stations that NIO has, they have compute power within them. And I'm curious how that ties into autonomous driving and, yes, potentially robotaxi. But I'm going to say this. I think we will see new all-time highs. I think we will see them, and I'm talking $70+ dollars. I think we'll see them in the next 2 years, as long as NIO does these things. Now, there is one asterisk I'm going to offer, because I do think the 2024 election matters. And I think 2 of the 3 candidates who are running would not get in the way of Chinese EVs coming to the US. I think they could structure around that without it becoming sort of a, they like to say, incite national security issue. But as one of those candidates pointed out, TikTok is a great example. He said, TikTok agreed to keep everything behind a US firewall. So there are ways to structure around some of these concerns. And I think 2 of the 3 candidates, if they get in, if either of them gets in, would allow for Chinese EVs to come into the US with fewer issues, fewer problems. If that's not allowed, then that obviously makes it a lot harder for the companies to be recognized, which means stock prices could stay lower for longer. That's my take, my thought. But I do think that although we could see NIO drop below $4, it's about a 50-50 chance, I would say. I also think there is a greater than 50% chance that we will see NIO stock go to new all-time highs. And I think we'll see it in 2025 or 6, unless NIO can't get to profitability or something else happens, like, with the geopolitical scenario and who gets elected and that sort of thing. So that's my thought. Absolutely never, ever any financial advice. I'm probably wrong. It'll probably go somewhere, I don't know, wherever I didn't talk about it going. That is, but that's part of the fun is, trying to call something in, and we'll see what happens. I hope you come through the Twitter Spaces. I talk so much more than I planned to. So you get some cough drops before we go for the Spaces tomorrow. Have a great day. Thanks for stopping through. We'll see you all again very soon.